It could have happened to anybody, but it didn't. It happened to us. The new band is gonna be something nobody's ever seen before.
Oh my God, those are my pants.
But they look so much better on me.
We got a runaway, a kid drummer, an old man.
Let's just play it.
A cover band singer.
They say you're gonna be a rock star.
What do you think?
Holy shit.
If we want to knock people on their asses, then we've got to give them a show. I'm talking like a stadium show in the clubs. The fans, they're dying for some anarchy. So let's give it to them.
I work for Elektra Records. You guys like a record deal?
I had managed the Scorpions, Bon Jovi, Skid Row, Kiss, but I had never been through what Motley Crue put me through.
I am sick and tired of not having any fun.
Everything's upside down and flip-flopping.
Motley Crue, no strangers to controversy.
Vince Neil was charged with vehicular manslaughter.
Tommy Lee and Heather Locklear have separated.
It's a degenerative bone disease.
Nikki Sixx has overdosed.
I know it's not gonna be easy, but I believe in you guys.
Win it all or lose it all. We are Motley Crue.
Motley Crue, here all week! Okay, boys, let's rock the house!
Fans Not Experts Movie Month. It's my 6th year doing Movie Month. 30 movies, 30 days, 30 podcasts that you get to listen to. Fans Not Experts Movie Month. It's my 6th year doing Movie Month. 30 movies, 30 days, 30 podcasts that you get to listen to, including this one right here. But wait, one more time. Fans Not Experts Movie Month. It's my 6th year doing Movie Month. 30 movies, 30 days, 30 podcasts that you have the pleasure of listening to. An episode is about to start right now. An episode is about to start right now. The theme song is fading out because an episode is starting right now. You know I'm a-watching movies all month long, and I love any excuse to sing a song. 17 days so far, doing podcasts just for you. Even watching shitty movies like Mission Impossible 2. Tonight I got my fix, watching Netflix. And now I'm gonna talk about a movie about Motley Crue. I watched The Dirt. I watched The Dirt on day 18. Tonight on day 18, I finally seen The Dirt. Ow. You know that I'm sorry, I'm not singing anymore. Hey everybody, welcome to day 18 of movie month. What do you think? I was going to do a podcast about a Motley Crue movie and not sing some Motley Crue. That would be irresponsible of me. Folks, I have been waiting to see this movie for June. It premiered on Netflix months ago. I think it premiered like early this year. And I've heard mixed to some negative to some positive things about it. And I just kind of kept it on my list, knew I was going to watch it eventually, and finally, the day presented itself. I almost went to the theater today, but because of different schedules, I ended up staying home, and this was my next home viewing. So yeah, I have to say, I am a child of the 80s. Like when a lot of their hits happened, early 80s, I was, in 81 they came out, I was 5 years old. My first knowledge of Motley Crue was going over this kid Robbie's house and seeing Shout at the Devil, seeing the album cover and hearing the music. It's a friend of my brother's, and it scared me, and I also kind of loved it. I was brought up with an older brother, and he had friends, and they were all into this kind of music, which is really what kind of influenced me into getting into this music over the years. So Motley Crue to me was, that first like scary band, even though they really weren't singing scary music. They kind of were, wearing tight pants and, like feminine makeup and teased up hair. They still had that pentagram. They had a song about the devil. So to me, I was like, oh, this band is scary. Then they'd come out with, Smoking in the Boys' Room and Home Sweet Home. I was like, wait a minute, this band is soft and lovable. And then, Girls. I feel like they had albums with big, huge hits on them, but they weren't huge albums. Like, I know there's Shout at the Devil. Shout at the Devil probably has a lot of the most hits early on. Then they had Theater of Pain, and I can, Vince Neil even said there's 2 quality songs on this album. The rest is shit. In the movie, the character said it, and it's Home Sweet Home and Smoking in the Boys' Room. That's all I can remember from that. Girls. I know Girls, and Wild Side. That's all I can remember from that. And then they sobered up and they put out Dr. Feelgood, and that was just like a humongous album for them. And it spawned off a ton of hits and a lot of songs that I still enjoy today. And that was like, in the movie, that was like, oh no, I'm sorry. That was like part of the wave of going up. But at that point, the band had peaked. I mean, they talk about the way the movie went was, they started on the Sunset Strip, rose to fame, crazy, rose to fame, ran into issues with, vehicular homicide and overdosing on drugs, cleaned up, put out their biggest album, then they didn't want to stay as clean as they wanted to, at least according to the movie. Then Vince Neil left, they brought in John Corabi, they did some albums, then they brought Vince Neil back. And the way the movie shows is like Vince Neil is back, and let's go out, and they're going on stage, and they're like, yeah, we did it, we're great. And I feel like when Vince Neil came back in the band in real life, forgive me if I'm wrong, but they were already a little older, and they were kind of already past, like, grunge had come and wiped out as far as being the quote-unquote popular music. Now, these bands, as long as they can still play, have a staying power still today because they can tour and they can put together tours. But as far as being like, it was almost like, we're back. We're better than ever. Okay, they're back, but, give me one hit after that. Now, I have to tell you, there's a couple songs that I liked after that. There's like Hell on High Heels. I don't even know if Tommy Lee was in the band at that point, because if you don't know, at one point, Tommy Lee's out of the band, and there's a new drummer. There's a female drummer in the band. Then Tommy Lee comes back in the band. They don't touch that at all. Then there's a song about, something about Los Angeles, and that was a pretty good song. I like that. But Hell on High Heels, like, was a major part of my playlist, even in the early 2000s. I want to listen to it right now. I'm not going to, but I want to. You know what? Let's listen to it. Okay. The movie itself, it was based on a book that they wrote, and it's their story. So you have to go with whatever, it's kind of a version of their story, which is a version of what really happened. It's something in the book, you still have to take their word as what has actually happened. Like I read the Dave Mustaine book, the guy from Megadeth who, in the news now because he just was diagnosed with throat cancer. I read his book, and because I was fascinated with that early metal scene, him and Metallica, him starting out Megadeth. But at the same time, I was reading it from his perspective, and it felt like, to me, I was reading something where it was always somebody else's fault, and he was always in the right. That's just me, how I read it. So I never read The Dirt, but I wonder. They did write it with someone, with Neil Strauss, I believe. But I wonder how much of it is, from their perspective, and then you take that and then you make a movie version of it. And for Netflix, it's funny. This is a Netflix movie. I wonder how that works. Like as far as these actors, I just wonder how Netflix movies works. Like if you put a movie out and it does great at the box office, your career is going to be on a certain trajectory. They're going to want you to keep doing other movies. You make a Netflix movie, maybe it does good. I don't know. I don't know how it works. It's just interesting. But I love that we have these options for us to watch these movies. And, you see all these movie biopics coming out now. There's the Elton John one. There's the Queen one. And now we have the Motley Crue one. That one just doesn't seem like it fits. It's funny. But this was, for a certain time, they were, I don't want to ever say they were the biggest rock band in the world, because they were never the biggest. Like, I feel like even at that time, bands like Van Halen were bigger. But they were and Def Leppard were bigger. But they were still, a superstar band. Like, as far as like super famous, super successful, they were at the right time. And I was fascinated to see at least what this movie told me of their story. I didn't really know anything about, Nikki Sixx. I always think of Nikki Sixx as the smart one in the band, the one who's the most well-spoken, the one who, like, I've listened to his radio show when he had that for a while. He has this way of talking where it's just like he sounds very smart. And it's funny, the actor early on didn't have that kind of speech pattern, but later on I felt like he was trying to do it a little, and I think that was like the older Nikki Sixx kind of thing. He came from a broken home. They showed that. They showed him getting away from his family, getting away from his mother, who seemed like a real treat, and getting away from his name, and just becoming Nikki Sixx. Now, that he had this rough upbringing. Then you flip over to Tommy Lee, who had looked like the American, gothic, perfect Ozzie and Harriet upbringing, where he had the long hair, he wore the tight pants, he had all the band, and his parents were like, "Hey, where are you going tonight?" Or they were very supportive of him. He was wearing his sister's pants. It was a funny little thing. The actor playing Tommy Lee was Machine Gun Kelly. I don't know what his real name is. He's a rapper, and the only thing I know him from is that he's shown up on WWE television from time to time. And I actually thought he did a pretty good job. I don't know if he's ever acted before. But he pulled off the looking like Tommy Lee. He pulled off looking like a drummer playing. And I thought he did all right. I kind of forgot it was him. The other two guys, so the guy playing Nikki Sixx, I don't know of him at all. Then you got Mick Mars. He came in, and I liked that they treated him like they called him the old man. I saw an interview once where they were like, oh, someday we're going to be old. We're going to be in our 90s. Mick will be 95. So I took that as to mean he was 5 years older than the rest of them. I don't know if that's true, if that was just the way they talked about, but they called him the old man. He's like, he called them drummer and bass player, never called them by their names. I don't know if that's for the movie. They talked, he's like, I already owe child support. Before he's even in Motley Crue, he talked about having child support. I didn't realize that he had that degenerative spinal bone issue even before Motley Crue he was diagnosed with it. I thought that was something that came on later in life. They didn't really, they talked about him being uncomfortable. They showed him kind of drinking and moving around and getting a hip replacement. But one thing they didn't show, and I'm almost positive this is true, is that he had a bone fused in his neck where he cannot turn his head. So if you ever watch him on stage in the later years, he kind of turns his whole body like Batman, like Michael Keaton in the Batman suit. Like if he wants to turn, or like Herman Munster, his whole shoulders and everything has to turn with him. I'm doing it right now, which is probably why I sound a little weird. They didn't really touch on that, or, it just kind of, they talked about it a little bit at the beginning, and had little moments here and there. And Vince Neil was a cover band, young cover band, good-looking cover band guy who was only interested in getting laid. And the guy who played Nikki Sixx is a British guy who is, Nikki Sixx. The guy who played Mick Mars is the British guy who I know best as Ramsay Bolton from Game of Thrones. And then the guy who played Vince Neil, I'm like, why do I know him? He was on the first season of Punisher on Netflix. He played like the young military veteran who had PTSD and came back and went, like, I think he ended up he was the young blonde guy. When you cut his hair off, I was like, okay, I recognize him now. And I thought he did a pretty good job. None of them looked exactly like their guys, but they did a good job, I thought, with the hair and the clothes and the makeup. I thought, and I don't mean like special effects makeup. I mean like eyeliner and cheek rouge and things like that. I thought they did a pretty good job with that. That was cool. I don't know how they did the singing. I didn't look it up because Vince Neil isn't hitting those notes anymore. I don't know if they had the old tracks. Maybe they got the actual vocal tracks for them to, because they were showing sometimes in studio where you just heard the vocals. I don't think the guy was singing. It sounded too much like Vince Neil. In the Queen movie, some of it's, I think some of it's Freddie Mercury, but some of it is also a kind of voice sound-alike guy that did some of the vocals. It wasn't Rami Malek. I don't think this actor did the Vince Neil voice, and I don't think Vince Neil supplied new vocals. But I thought they did a pretty good job of at least mimicking it. I liked seeing the stage. They showed. I liked when they showed the real juxtaposed to the movie at the end, where they showed the stage, or they showed shooting the video for Looks That Kill. I think it was Looks That Kill. All in all, was it a great historical retelling? I don't know. Are they even a band worthy of a movie? I don't know, but I enjoyed it, and because I enjoyed Motley Crue, they weren't a huge part of my childhood. Like, oh, I remember, buying all their records and wanting to go to their concerts. None of that happened. My brother had all their tapes. I used to listen to them a lot. Loved hearing them on the radio. Always loved it. Loved Dr. Feelgood, and I think I had that on CD. It was green. I think my brother got it and gave it to me, or I stole the CD, something like that. And you know what I did buy the after Dr. Feelgood, they put out a kind of a greatest hits. I don't know what the hell it was called, but it had like Anarchy in the USA. They did a cover of Anarchy in the UK. They did Primal Scream was their song. Primal Scream they put out. So I bought that because I was into it at that point. I was like, yeah, oh yeah, Motley Crue. I'm probably a sophomore or junior in high school. Probably a sophomore in high school, I think, that year. I don't know. But I forgot they did do that afterwards. They had something after after Dr. Feelgood. I just don't remember anything else after that. Well, no, I do, because I talked about Hell on High Heels, and you listened to it, and you loved it. I did play it, right? Of course I did. So what else to talk about with this movie? I mean, I'm not going to go through the whole plot. It's the story of Motley Crue. You know, some things I knew about. For years, there was the rumor of Ozzy Osbourne snorting ants, and it probably came from this book. But I've known about that for years, and, you know, they show him doing it. I didn't know about him, you know, pissing and licking the piss and stuff. I thought the guy playing Ozzy was pretty good. This was not, you know, the Osbournes. No, this was, you know, early 80s. I want to say probably it's not. Is it after Bark at the Moon? I want to say, what's that? You know, the one with the woman on the cover. That's like Fat Ozzy era. You know, he had the short hair, big, and his face was all puffy. He had that for a while until No More Tears. So that was around that era. So they kind of nailed that hair and that look. Like the utter debauchery of the band. The girl who played Heather Locklear, I thought actually looked a lot like Heather Locklear. That was kind of good casting, cool. The director, Jeff Tremaine, he's actually known for doing all the Jackass movies and producing all the Jackass stuff and working with them forever. I'm sure he's done other. I think he did, like, you know, the Bad Grandpa or whatever the one with Johnny Knoxville is. He does a lot of stuff with Johnny Knoxville, I think, still. But I thought he did a fine job with this. You know, it wasn't. Again, it was just good enough, and it was covering a topic that I had an interest in from a band that I enjoyed and music that I still like. So that was, to me, it was endearing enough for me. Like, if someone didn't care about, you know, that music, this movie would just probably be annoying to them or not enjoyable. But being a kid who grew up on that music, just, you know, made me want to like it going in. So it probably made me like it more than someone who just watched it as a movie reviewer. So it's tough like that. Like, it may get bad reviews, but people are reviewing it based on, this is a movie of a band, and I'm watching it. This is a movie of a band of songs that I love. So what do you know? How am I gonna hate it? I couldn't. The actors were good enough. You know, the script was, you know, it buzzed through quickly. They did, you know, there was the creepy scene of you know, the Vince Neil car accident. There was actually like a kind of a gruesome shot of the guy who died. And at first I was like, oh, he didn't die right away? Oh, nope, that's all in Vince Neil's head. He's dead. And, you know, Hanoi Rocks is a band I never knew of. Like, I never were familiar with them. And then years later, like, now I see them on the Hair Nation channel on Sirius XM, and I see the band Hanoi Rocks. I'm like, what is that? I don't even know what that is. But it seems like, I don't know if they were a band that just never made it, or if something like this, like their drummer dying in a car accident, is what, you know, prevented them from getting bigger. I have no idea. Then you know, they showed the Tommy Lee. It's funny because they made Tommy Lee like this nice young, you know, innocent, you know, wild rocker who just. But then they showed him go get worse and worse. You know, he stays engaged to one girl, and then they show her hit the girl. I thought that was. They didn't steer away from that. Like, he smacked this girl. Nothing came of it. They just kind of showed it. And he showed him ashamed of it. It seemed like nothing happened. That was the end of that. That wouldn't be the case today. And I don't know, you know, I feel like he's run into that again in real life. Not in the movie, but in real life. They did a good job of how they all dressed for the wedding, because I remember seeing those pictures. I looked them up, and they pretty much dressed exactly how they did for the Heather Locklear wedding. All of Tommy Lee's looks over the years, I thought they did a good job with that. Even Nikki Sixx's looks, how his hair changed, how the tattoos came on, all the different changes of the hair. And just like Mick Mars wearing a beret, Mick Mars wearing the bowler hat or something. I mean, it was not the bowler hat, but whatever hat he wore. I thought they did a good job of kind of showing over the years. And honestly, if I had a time machine with unlimited stops, because I don't know if I'd go there first, but I would have loved to have been like 80, 81 on that Sunset Strip. It just seems like it was madness with a lot of just young up and coming bands, some that would go nowhere and some that would become the hugest bands in the world. And they didn't spend much time there, but I liked it. And of course, the movie opened with a party scene with some sex scenes. They were already famous before they went back and showed them again. And it was fairly graphic, like right away. It was interesting how graphic they went with this. But it definitely was effective as far as showing like, holy shit, these guys are, will do anything in front of anybody. And there it is. They'll do anything to each other's girlfriends even. So obviously I liked it. What am I going to say? I'm not on the deck. I'm not in my car. I'm literally talking into a nice microphone into my computer today because while I was recording the song, I thought, might as well just talk about it all right now. The Dirt. Pretty good. Enjoyable enough. I like all the music. And never got a chance to see Crew. When I lived in Florida, this was like 2005, they were playing at a place. It was like a small, where like a minor league hockey team played. Not quite a full like arena where like the Celtics or the Bruins would play, but like the TD Garden, but like the next tier down. Still a pretty good size venue, but the tickets were like way too expensive, and I was like, oh, I can't. I got nobody to go with. Nowadays, I probably would go alone, but this was 14 years ago, and I was like, oh, I don't know about this, and I didn't go. And now they're quote unquote retired. Now they said they're retired as far as being a band, no more albums and no more touring, or maybe just no more touring. But then they did record a song for this movie called "The Dirt" that plays over the end credits, and it has Machine Gun Kelly, rapping over it. Of course, why not? I wish they showed at the end all of them with their real counterparts, or show them turning into their real counterparts. They did that once with Tommy Lee and Machine Gun Kelly. That was really it. And Tommy Lee looks old. Well, they're all old. Mick Mars is older. For some reason, Nikki Sixx he's like 60 years old now, I think, and he just found this look that he's stuck with. And he's stuck with it, and he's got a band now called 6 a.m. that he's had that band for a while, and they've had a couple songs that I like. He's kind of found his niche. I think Mick Mars is just chilling now, and I think Vince Neil is still goes out doing Motley Crue songs with his solo band. As far as I think he's done that recently, and he doesn't sound as like he used to. But I wouldn't pass up the chance to see him if I had free tickets or cheap tickets. That's the kind of bands I'll still go see today. Yeah, I enjoyed this movie. And I'm glad I finally watched it. I'm glad I watched it today, because I got to talk about it and I got to share it with you on day 18. So that's it. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for listening. You can find me on Twitter at Geek Mentality and on Instagram at Geek Mentality. The website is fansnotexperts.com, and on Facebook it's just simply Fans Not Experts. If you want to reach out to me, you can just email geekmentality@fansnotexperts.com or tweet to @geekmentality. That's the easiest way to reach me. Or you could leave a message. If you're an Anchor listener, you can find us through the Anchor app and leave a message. You're not going to. Nobody's going to, but that's okay. I thought I'd say it anyway. And that's it. That's the end. We are 18 days down, 12 days to go. I can't believe it. We are well past the halfway part. It's like already going down. I'm already looking at a list of movies going, nope, I can't do that this year because I want to see this and this and this and this. I mean, there's only 12 spots left. It's crazy. It is madness. And I think 3 of those, 2 definitely, 3 might be in the theater. Folks, thank you so much for listening. I will see you tomorrow. And until then, here is my theme song. This is my podcast. I made it. Geek Mentality's what I named it. And I think you should listen and subscribe. Cause I'm kinda funny and awesome. I think that I'm worth your time, and I'm kinda handsome. My mom says, please listen and please subscribe. At least listen to this episode.
Fans not experts.